The baseline monster. Before we dive into the modifications, let's talk about what BMW handed Manhart to work with, because the standard M5 Competition is already borderline absurd. Under the hood sits a 4.4-liter twin-turbocharged V8 that BMW designates as the S63. In competition trim, it produces 617 horsepower and 553 pound-feet of torque. That engine connects to an 8-speed automatic transmission and BMW's M xDrive all-wheel drive system, which can route power front to rear or operate in rear-wheel drive mode when you're feeling particularly brave or stupid. From the factory, the M5 Competition hits 60 miles per hour in 3.1 seconds. The quarter mile passes in 11.1 seconds at 128 miles per hour. Top speed is electronically limited to 190 miles per hour, or 189 if we're being precise about it. The curb weight is 4,370 pounds. That's substantial, but BMW hides it well through adaptive dampers, active anti-roll bars, and enough computing power to run a small country. The M5 Competition costs around $110,000 in the United States, though this particular example came in closer to $130,000 with options. Now, most people would drive this car and think it's more than sufficient. The owner of this particular M5 Competition thought differently. The Manhart transformation. Manhart Performance has been tuning BMWs since 1986. They're based in Wuppertal, Germany, and they've built a reputation for extracting genuinely ridiculous power from engines that were already highly strung from the factory. Their MH5800 package for the M5 Competition typically brings power up to around 820 horsepower. This car went further. The owner spec'd what Manhart internally calls the Stage 3 Plus package. The result is 1,200 horsepower at the crank and approximately 1,050 horsepower at the wheels, depending on whose dyno you trust. Torque figures land somewhere north of 950 pound-feet, though exact numbers get fuzzy at these power levels because the drivetrain starts doing expensive gymnastics. Let's break down how they got there, starting with the turbos, because that's where the real work happens. Turbocharger upgrades. The factory S63 engine uses two turbochargers mounted in the valley of the V8, what BMW calls a hot V configuration. This setup reduces turbo lag by minimizing the distance exhaust gases travel before hitting the turbine wheels, but it creates absolutely brutal heat in that engine valley. Manhart replaced the stock turbos with larger Garrett GTX units. The exact model is a GTX 3582R Gen 2, which flows significantly more air than the factory units. Each turbo features a 62mm compressor wheel and an 82mm turbine wheel. To support the increased airflow, Manhart installed custom stainless steel exhaust manifolds. These replace the factory cast units and provide better flow characteristics at high RPM. The downpipes are 3-inch diameter high-flow units that eliminate the catalytic converters. Yes, this makes the car illegal for street use in most markets. No, the owner doesn't particularly care. The stock intercoolers couldn't handle the thermal load, so Manhart fitted custom air-to-water intercooler system with a dedicated cooling circuit. There's a separate reservoir in the trunk with its own electric pump. Under sustained full-throttle runs, coolant temperatures still climb, but they stay within acceptable limits for the 5 to 10-second bursts most people actually use. Boost pressure maxes out at around 28 psi, compared to roughly 18 psi from the factory. The turbos spool fully by 3,800 RPM, which is remarkably low for this power level. Engine internals and fueling. You can't just crank boost pressure to 28 psi and call it a day. The internals need attention, even though the S63 engine was already fairly robust from the factory. Manhart installed forged pistons from JE Pistons, which can handle significantly more cylinder pressure than the factory cast units. The compression ratio dropped slightly to 9.0 ohm from the factory 10.0 to 1, which gives more boost headroom and reduces the risk of detonation. The connecting rods are aftermarket H-beam units from Korea. They're stronger than the factory rods and weigh slightly less, which reduces rotational mass. The crankshaft remains factory, though it's been balanced to account for the new pistons and rods. The cylinder head received upgraded valve springs from Supertech to prevent valve float at high RPM. The camshafts are custom grinds from Manhart with more aggressive lift and duration profiles. This shifts the power band higher, but doesn't kill low-end torque as much as you'd expect, thanks to the turbochargers filling in the gaps. Fueling is handled by upgraded high-pressure fuel pumps and larger injectors. The car runs on 98-octane fuel in Europe, which is roughly equivalent to 93-octane in the United States, though the owner occasionally adds race fuel for dyno runs or track days. The ECU received a full custom tune on Manhart's in-house dyno. Ignition timing, fuel maps, boost curves, and transmission shift points all received attention. The tune took around 40 hours to dial in properly.
Transmission and drivetrain. The factory ZF 8-speed automatic is a strong transmission, but it wasn't designed for 1,200 horsepower. Manhart reinforced the clutch packs and installed a larger transmission cooler with its own electric fan. The torque converter received upgraded internals to handle the increased load. Shift firmness increased noticeably, which improves performance, but makes around-town driving slightly harsher. Launch control now slams through gears with enough violence that passengers routinely let out involuntary noises. The transfer case and rear differential both received upgraded fluid and additional cooling provisions. The front differential remains mostly stock, though Manhart added an auxiliary cooler just in case. The drive shafts are aftermarket carbon fiber units from Drive Shaft Shop. They're lighter than the factory steel shafts and rated for significantly more torque. The weight savings is minimal, maybe 15 pounds total, but every bit helps when you're trying to move 4,400 pounds at absurd speeds. Suspension and chassis. Adding 600 horsepower without addressing the chassis is a recipe for disaster, so Manhart didn't stop at engine modifications. The suspension uses KW Club Sport coilovers with adjustable compression and rebound damping. Ride height dropped by approximately 20 millimeters front and rear. The springs are stiffer than stock, which reduces body roll but makes the ride quality notably harsher over broken pavement. The anti-roll bars are adjustable units from H&R. They're thicker than stock, which further reduces body roll during hard cornering. The bushings throughout the suspension are polyurethane rather than rubber, which tightens up the handling but transmits more road noise into the cabin. Camber and toe settings are more aggressive than factory specs, optimized for track use rather than tire longevity. The owner reports getting about 8,000 miles on a set of rear tires under mixed driving. Purely track use would probably cut that in half. The brakes are still the factory carbon ceramic units, which seem adequate for now. The owner mentioned that prolonged track sessions at higher speeds might require upgraded paths or even a full big brake kit. But for street use and occasional track days, the stock brakes handle the load. Wheels, tires, and aero. The wheels are Manhart-branded forged units built by BBS. They measure 20 inches in diameter, 9.5 inches wide up front, and 10.5 inches wide at the rear. They're lighter than the factory wheels by about 3 pounds per corner. Tires are Michelin Pilot Sport Cup 2s in 275/30/20 front and 305/30/20 rear. These are semi-slick street-legal tires that offer significantly more grip than standard Pilot Sport 4S rubber, but they're also borderline useless in cold or wet conditions. The owner keeps a set of all-season tires mounted on the factory wheels for winter. Aerodynamically, the car received a Manhart carbon fiber front splitter, side skirts, and a rear diffuser. There's also a small trunk lid spoiler, though it's more for aesthetics than actual downforce. At the speeds this car reaches, these aero pieces probably generate measurable downforce, but nobody's put it in a wind tunnel to find out exactly how much. The carbon fiber hood is a functional piece with a large vent that helps extract heat from the engine bay. It saves about 15 pounds compared to the factory aluminum hood. Performance testing. Numbers on paper are one thing, real-world performance is another. On a prepped surface with launch control, the car hit 60 miles per hour in 2.6 seconds. The quarter mile passes in 10.8 seconds at 136 miles per hour. For context, a Bugatti Chiron runs the quarter in 9.4 seconds. A Dodge Demon does it in 9.65 seconds. This sedan is within striking distance of dedicated drag cars. From a 20-mile-an-hour roll in second gear, the acceleration is violent enough to trigger the traction control, even in dry conditions. Turn the traction control fully off, and the car will break the rear tires loose at 70 miles per hour in fourth gear if you're not smooth with the throttle. Top speed is limited by gearing rather than power. The owner reported an indicated 205 miles per hour on an unrestricted section of German Autobahn before running out of nerve. The speedometer climbs so quickly above 150 miles per hour that it's genuinely difficult to process. Fuel economy is predictably terrible. Expect around 8 miles per gallon under spirited driving. Highway cruising might yield 15 miles per gallon if you're patient. The fuel tank holds 20.6 gallons, which gives a theoretical range of about 160 miles per tank if you're using the power regularly. Daily usability. Here's the surprising part. This car is still somewhat livable as a daily driver, assuming you don't mind frequent gas station visits and the constant paranoia of breaking something expensive. The air conditioning works, the heated seats function normally, the infotainment system operates normally, you can connect your phone via Bluetooth and listen to podcasts while sitting in traffic, the adaptive cruise control and lane keeping assist are still present, though the idea of using driver aids in a 1,200 horsepower sedan feels slightly ridiculous. The ride quality is harsh, no question. The stiffer suspension and polyurethane bushings transmit every expansion joint and pothole directly into your spine. The exhaust is loud enough to trigger car alarms in parking garages. Cold starts sound like a declaration of war. But you can absolutely drive this car to the grocery store, load the trunk with bags, and drive home. You could theoretically take a road trip, assuming you plan your route around gas stations and don't mind your passengers complaining about the ride quality. The maintenance schedule is aggressive. Oil changes every 3,000 miles with high-quality synthetic oil. Transmission fluid every 10,000 miles. Regular inspections of the turbos, intercooler plumbing, and fuel system. The owner estimates annual maintenance costs around $8,000, not including tires. The cost breakdown. Let's talk money, because this wasn't a cheap build. The base M5 Competition started at $130,000 with options. The Manhart Stage 3 Plus package, including parts and labor, cost approximately €120,000, which converts to roughly $130,000, depending on exchange rates. The wheels and tires added another $8,000. Shipping the car to Germany and back to wherever the owner lives added several thousand more. All in, this car represents somewhere between $280,000 and $300,000 in total investment. For that money, you could buy a Ferrari SF90 Stradale or a Lamborghini Huracan STO. You could buy 2 Mercedes-AMG Black Serieses. You could buy a used McLaren Senna. But none of those cars can comfortably seat 4 adults, carry luggage, and operate in winter weather. The M5 Competition offers a weird blend of supercar performance and sedan practicality that nothing else quite matches at this power level. Whether that justifies the cost is a personal decision. For enthusiasts who want the ultimate point-to-point car for real-world roads, where traffic and weather and practicality actually matter, this build makes a strange kind of sense. It's for someone who wants the ultimate point-to-point car for real-world roads, where traffic and weather and practicality actually matter. It's for the person who already owns a weekend sports car, but wants something that blends into traffic when needed, and then absolutely demolishes everything when the road clears. It's for the enthusiast who appreciates the absurdity of a four-door luxury sedan that can outrun genuine supercars in a straight line. It's not for someone seeking rational transportation. It's not for someone who wants reliability above all else. It's definitely not for someone on a budget. This is a statement car. It's rolling proof that you can have your cake and eat it too, assuming your definition of cake involves carbon fiber, forced indilection, and enough horsepower to liquefy your internal organs under full acceleration.